Hi everyone, and welcome back to Crochet Rocks. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make these cute little baby mittens. Now I made some lemon ones a little while ago which were 0 to 3, and I think these ones are slightly bigger. They're slightly bigger because I did them in a larger hook. I've used a 4.5mm hook for these. You'll need a trusty pair of scissors and some darning needles. The weight yarn I've used is a DK weight, which is a 3 weight, and this one is just an inexpensive one that I got recently from a store in the UK called Pound Stretcher, and it's called Yarn Fair Tootsie. It's very, very cheap and cheerful, but it's lovely and soft, good quality yarn, and I'm also using a little light pink to make this little pink accent on there. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, and you'll be informed when there are new videos, lots of tutorials, live streams, blog chats, and well, there's just lots of fun. And at the moment there are some giveaways going on, so just check those out. So I'm going to show you how to make the opposite one to this, and for that we're going to be using the magic loop. So I'm going to show you my very, very easy way of doing the magic loop. Nothing difficult about this. So how we do that is just to make a loop, and then I insert the hook and I bring the yarn through, and that's it. So now I'm going to do 2 chain to get me up to the height of my first stitch, because in this magic loop I'm going to have 12 UK treble crochets, which are double crochet in the US. So this 2 chain will count as the first, and to do a UK treble and a US double, it's yarn over. We're going to go into the loop, so we're going to work over this tail that's forming this kind of knot. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, so we have 3 on our hook, and we're going to yarn over and just pull through 2 of them, yarn over and pull through 2, and that's a UK treble or a US double crochet. I'll show you one more time, and I'll zoom in just a little bit. So remember, we're going, if this is too large for you, you can always pull it tight a little bit. So we're going to yarn over into the actual ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So with my 2 chain to get up to the correct height, that makes 3. Now I'm going to pause the video in a second while I do the rest, because if I count it will put you off. I'll show you one more time. Yarn over into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and it's as simple as that. So we want 11, and so that would be 12 including the 2 chain, but we want 11 of these UK trebles. Right, so I've done all of my stitches, so this tail, now you can just pull that closed. Now until we've sewn that tight and secured it, this will open up a little bit, but don't worry about that, that's perfectly fine, as long as you don't let this tail disappear. So now we're going to slip stitch into our second chain. There's our first and there's our second, so we're just going to insert the hook, yarn over and pull through the loop that's on our hook. So that's gone through all of them, and now we've made the ring. Okay, so just pull out some yarn. Now we're going to change our stitch, and I'm going to do 1 chain, and I'm going to cinch it down because I don't really want that chain to be part of my my crochet. That's just to secure that. So now I'm going to do what in the UK we call a half treble crochet, and in the US that's a half double. So to do that, we're going to yarn over We're going to go into the same stitch that we've just slip stitched into, yarn over and pull up our loop. So we've got 3 on our hook, exactly the same as our previous stitch, but this time we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. And what we're going to do now is we're going to increase in every stitch round. So I'm going to do another one in that same space. And I'm going to do 2 in each one all the way around, so until you've got 24 stitches. So just make sure you've got the right count. When you get to this part here, it will look like you need to go into here, but you don't. Remember, this is part of that stitch. So just keep count and make sure you've got 24. There's 2 in there, so I'm going to go into the next one and do 2 in the next one. Show you one more time. So that's 2 in that one and in the next one. So we're going to increase in every single stitch around until we have 24. I'm going to pause the video now and I will catch up with you when we get back to the start. Okay, so I'm on my very last one and I've got to do 2 in that stitch there, and now I've made it all the way around. So that's what I was trying to tell you. It will look like you've got another stitch there, but that's not a stitch, that's just part and parcel of our that's where we did our turning chain, and so we don't need to go in there. So now I'm just going to slip stitch into my first stitch to form the ring. And now we're not going to increase anymore, we're just going to do 1 stitch in every single stitch around. So I'm going to go back into the same stitch and do 1 in every single stitch. So at the end of this round we will still have 24 stitches and there'll be no more increase in at all. And what will happen now is it will start to rise up a little bit like it's forming a little cup, but that is perfectly fine, that's what we want. So just 1 stitch in every one. I'm going to pause the video now and I will meet up with you when I get back to here. Okay, so I'm on the very last one. We've made it all the way around and we're just going to slip stitch again into the first stitch and pull it through. So this is what I mean, it will start to look like it's cupping up a little bit. So this is the right side and this is the wrong side, and I'm going to carry on 1 stitch. I think I split the yarn there. We'll do that again. It looked wrong to me, so just slip stitch. That's better. So I'm going to make my chain and again into the same stitch. Does split a little bit. It's got a lovely feel to it, this yarn. So again, 1 in each one all the way around, so we'll still have 24 stitches when we get to the end. And what I do is I just gently pop it so that it cups this way and just keep going. So I'm going to pause the video and I shall meet up with you when we get back to the start. Okay, so I've made it all the way back to the start and I'm just going to slip stitch into my first stitch just as before. There we go. So if I pull this out a little bit now, this is what it's starting to look like. Ignore that tail, and it's just looking like it's starting to cup over like a little hat. So what we've done now is we've made this part and we're now coming down here, so that's exactly the same. And for this we're not going to increase anymore, we're just going to keep going in the same vein all the way around until we have a total of 9 rows. Now, as I've made a set before that was smaller than this, I still had 9 rows. But if you wanted a larger size, then if you want to just go up a hook size or do 10 rows if you think it's wide enough. So it's really just, that's how you make them larger or smaller. If you wanted them smaller, then you use a smaller hook. I've used a 4 for the previous pair. This is a 4.5, but you can drop down to a thinner weight as well if you wanted to, and use a smaller hook. So if you wanted to do 4-ply in the UK, which is a sport weight, then you could do that just to make them smaller. So now all I'm going to do is pause the video, and I shall carry on until I have my 9 rows. And you can easily spot how many rows you've done, because you know you've got this little kind of row of holes and you can easily count them. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So carry on until you have 9 rows and I will come back to you. Okay, so I've made it all the way around and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now if you wanted 10, as I said, that's fine. So I'm going to do my last slip stitch into my first stitch, do my little chain. So in my first stitch I'm going to do a UK double crochet, which in the US is a single crochet. And now this row is slightly different because we're going to make room for the tie. So I'm going to do 1 stitch and 2 chain, but I'm going to make them cinched down. Slip 1 stitch into the next one with another UK double or US single. 2 small chains, skip 1 and do my stitch. So you're making these little gaps. Now of course this obviously means that you've got the wrong stitch count, but that's fine because we'll make that up on the next row. And in the next one you could just do 1 big chain, but I prefer to do 2 that are cinched down. Just makes it cleaner. Just going to repeat that all the way around. Let's keep going. Sometimes cinching down my chains like this is how I make a cord, because it makes a much cleaner cord. Okay, so this is my last one. I do my 2 chain and I'm going to slip stitch into my first stitch, but I'm just going to cut this yarn and finish with my new colour. Well, actually I'm going to just finish with that colour and I'm going to slip stitch into the gap with my next colour. So get rid of the ivory, and I'm going to bring, I don't want to take it too far, I'll need it again in a moment. So I'm going to get my pink, find the end, which is easier said than done sometimes, and I'm pulling out some yarn before we start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hook in, I'm going to hold on to that tail there, and I'm going to pull my new colour through, and I am going to turn it over and just do a little knot in this with my ends. Just need to find my end. So I'm just going to pull that because I don't want it to have got elongated stitch, and I'm just going to tie that so it's nice and secure, and I will be sewing them in, but I just want to make sure that it's all secure before I do that. So notice my hook fell out, pop that back in and tighten that up. So now I have my new colour in the first space, and just want to get my tails because I don't want them in the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very small chain just to get me there. Now I'm going to make a bobble, so I'm going to yarn over, I'm just going to work over this tail once, so I'll hold them alongside. So I'm going to pull up a loop, but I'm going to make it tall. I'm going to yarn over, go back in, pull up a loop, make it tall. I'm going to do this 4 times. So this is my third, do it again, this is my 4th. So I've got all these loops on my hook. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of them, secure it with a chain and do another chain. So now I'm going to drop those tails because I don't want to work over them, they'll pull out. So I'm going to yarn over into that space and pull up my loop and make it tall. Yarn over into the space, pull up my yarn, make it tall. And 2 more times. Last one. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of them, do a chain to secure it, and 1 more chain. So I'm going to do this, moving those tails out of the way because they're confusing, in every single one of these spaces, all the way around. So 4, pull through all of them, get out of the way tail, yarn to secure it, there we are. Of course I meant chain to secure it. I'm just going to try and pop that in there out of the way. It'll probably pop back out again just to annoy us. So I'll show you again. So into that space, pull it tall, so you've got these lovely long stitches, chain to secure it, 1 more chain. So this is how your bobbles are looking. And we're going to do that in every gap all the way around, and I'm going to show you one more time and then I'll pause the video and carry on and meet up with you when I get to the start, just like that. So I'm going to pause it now and I shall catch up with you when I get back here. Right, so I've done every bobble all the way around. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the top of this one, but I'm going to bring through my ivory or cream coloured yarn. It's a changing colour, so I'm going to bring that through and through the loop on my hook. So now I just need to cut off my pink. Okay, I'll try and move that out of the way because it's a bit out of reach. And again, I'm going to sneeze in a second, do apologise. I might have to pause the video in a sec, just a moment. Sorry about that, it was a loud one, so I'm glad I paused it. So I just need to tie this off as before. Of course, if you don't do this, if you don't tie yours when you're changing colour, that's fine. You just do it how you normally would. Feel another sneeze coming on. Don't know why. So here we are, we're back at this one, and I'm going to do my chain, and I'm going to do one UK double, US single. I'm going to work over these tails. Hang on, that's it, there are two. Do one there, one in the gap between them, one into the top of the stitch, and one in the space. And this is how we're bringing our stitch count back to the same as it was before. So we're just doing that all the way around. One in the top of the chain, and one, simple as that. So I'm going to lose that now because I shall sew that back through the other way. I'm just going to keep doing that all the way around. I think I'm more or less probably halfway. Just one in each bobble, and one in each space. Pull out some more yarn. Almost there. Not worth pausing it. Okay, so here we are, and I'm going to slip stitch into, can't see what I'm doing, there's that one, slip stitch into my first stitch. There we go. So there we have it. Now if I get this one back, as you can see it's got this little fluted edge, this little scallopy edge, and this is a border that I kind of invented myself because I've never seen anybody else do this, and I'm going to show you how. It's ever so simple and it doesn't quite meet up, but it's not too bad, so that's fine. I'm going to do my chain just to secure it. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. It's easier with the naked eye. So I'm going to go into this stitch. I'm in this one. This is my stitch that I'm in. So that's one. And then this one I'm going to skip, and I'm going to work into this one here. And I'm just going to do 5 of these UK double crochets or US single crochets in the same stitch. And then I'm going to skip 2. There's 1, 2, and I'm going to do 5 in this next one, all in the same stitch. Need to pull some more yarn out. I'm going to skip 2 and do 5 in this stitch. I do have a tutorial for this border on my playlist that I think has edges, borders in the title. And I'm going to skip 2 into this one, I'll skip 2 and go into this one. And skip 2. And when you get to the other side, if it doesn't quite work out, it's not really a big problem, as long as you've got a space. Nearly there. Okay. Last one. And then I'm just going to slip stitch into this one here, cinch it down, and then I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm still zoomed. Oh, trying to do it with a camera wasn't really going to work out, was it? So I'm just going to pull that through. Okay, so here we are. Got to sew those ends in, but that's how it's looking. So now I've just got to make the tie, and I do that by making 70 chain. So I'm just going to pop that down there for a second, pull out some yarn, move that out the way. Okay, so you need to just make your slip knot, and I make that very tight, and I'll just do 70. I'm going to pause it actually, because I will either do it silently and that's boring, or out loud, which will throw you completely off. So I'm going to pause the video and come back to you when I have 70 chain. Okay, so I have my 70. Just going to cut the yarn off, and I'm going to pull that through, and I'm going to pull it as hard as I can. Now you can sew your ends through it, but I find it makes a bit of a weird bump, so I'm just going to pull it as tight as I can and just snip it. Now if this should ever come undone, which I've never had one that done it yet, but if it did, I would just simply make a new one. So now I want this row here, and so I'm looking at, you decide where your center is, and that's obviously the end of that yarn, so that'll be there. And we're now just going to thread all this through. You might get hold of a tail or two as you're doing this, so not to worry about that, but we're just going to thread all that all the way around. If you have a bodkin, so much the better, but it's easy, unless you're filming it, to get through your gaps. I didn't want any gaps to be large ones throughout the body of the mittens, because little fingers make their way through. It doesn't matter about the bobble, because it's the edging forms part of the edging. Don't worry about those tails, they'll be sewn in. And just go all the way around, bringing it through. Last one there. It's so much easier without a camera in between. There we go. So we've pulled it through, and that's kind of even. We'll just pop that on the inside for now. We'll sew them in a second. But that's just standard sewing, don't really need to see that. And then we'll just tie these once they're on, tie them, but obviously don't need to be too tight at the minute, there's nothing inside. So now we have 2 identical little mittens with this cute pink bobble border. So I hope you like those. As I said before, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Don't forget to set that to all, otherwise you won't be informed of videos that you might like to see. But I like this little edge because it's not overly fussy, and it just finishes off baby things quite nicely. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye for now.